Hello, Elia Bean, and welcome to the show. We're excited to have you. Before we begin, I do want to know about what you do and your expertise and how you got to where you're at.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here, Maria. It's a pleasure to be here. So I started my healing journey about a little bit over 10 years ago. I was going through divorce, and even before deciding to get a divorce, I mean, at the time, I grew up in a very, strict religious, background. And so getting divorced was like not really an option at that time. So there was a huge conflict at that time for me, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. I had a lot of conflict deciding because I wasn't happy, I was miserable. And at the same time, it was kind of like going through that my own spirituality of, well, if there is a God up there, if God, exists, then I don't think he wants me to be miserable. I think he wants me to be happy. He loves me, he loves his children, and I know he wants me to be happy. So I know I need to make a decision about this. So it was it took me some time. I had so much conflict that I started suffering from depression and anxiety and insomnia. I couldn't sleep. I was lucky enough if I slept like 2 hours. And at that time, I had become a marathon runner, which now it makes perfect sense because it also became an addiction for me. And so now we know, addictions is just another way for us to deal and escape from whatever it is happening to us. So that became an addiction, and I was literally running away from my own issues, from confronting what my reality. And the reality was that I wasn't happy and I needed to do something about it. So I took myself to a therapist. I actually, started doing therapy. I hired a therapist, then I hired another therapist, then I hired an NLP, and I was just going through that whole, change. And finally, I was one time really, really praying, like I call it hardcore praying. I was hardcore praying, and I heard the voice in my head, and and I believe it was God talking to me at that point, and he was telling me, leave him, just leave him, like 3 times. He replied 3 times, leave him, leave him, leave him. And it was a confirmation for me that there was a God up there. There is a God up there. There is a higher power up there, universe, God, whatever we want to call it. And he wanted me to be happy, And it was like immediately after those 3 words, he said, you need to leave him because you still have a chance to have this, this loving relationship with someone else. You still have that chance to show your children, because that was another hard reason why it was so difficult for me to leave, because I have 2 kids at that time with him. And so that was another thing. It was like, but he was like, you know what, you need to leave him because you're going to find someone that you're going to be able to share and have a healthy relationship with, that your children can see that, you still have a chance to show that to your children instead of being in this very unhealthy environment right now. But they're growing up thinking that this is normal, because that's how I grew up. Right. I grew up thinking that that was normal, and then I married into that, right? So me doing that was really breaking that trauma and breaking that, generational trauma of, I'm just going to stay because I'm a woman, and I'm going to stay because, religion says you're not supposed to get divorced. So that was the starting of everything.
How long ago was that?
That was probably a little bit over 10 years ago.
10 years. Okay. So your journey has been like about 10 years.
Something like that. Yes. Yes. And so at that time I had gotten back to school and I was studying marriage and family study. And then after I did that, I was just kind of keep searching, I kept searching for more.
Mm-hmm.
And I found this other program about it's called Thanatology and Spiritual Intelligence. So it's the
Mm-hmm.
study of death and
Ooh.
spiritual intelligence, which really taught me how to live. Because
Hmm.
at the end of the day, the one thing that we have guaranteed is death.
Right.
We're all going to die. We're all dying every day, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so at the end of the day, it was like, okay, if, live your life as if this is the last day you have. So
Mm-hmm.
what would you do with your life if this is the last day you have, right? Same thing whenever I have an argument with my partner, it's like, what would you do if this is the last day that you have with your partner? Are you going to stay mad at him? Or are you going to try to work through this issue and get it over with and get it done, and not holding back and not holding any grudges? And so that really taught me to live life in better. And then of course, with the spiritual intelligence, it taught me so much more about spirituality and
Mm-hmm.
how I had been so limited with my spirituality because of religion. I'm nothing against religion or anybody who practice religion, but in my case, I found that it was very limiting, for me. There was a lot of judgment involved, and let's just face it and be real, there's a lot of judgment involved, especially for women. Once I
Yes.
became divorced, it's like I couldn't do certain things. I wasn't allowed to do certain things. I wasn't allowed to go to the temple because I
Wow.
was divorced. And
So
I
you
know,
were kind of casted out?
in a way,
Wow.
yes, yes,
That's
yeah.
awful.
So that's why I completely left that, I completely left the religion. I don't believe in organized religion. I feel
Yeah.
like it really limits your spirituality. And then after that, I became a hypnotherapist.
Mm.
I got a license as an RTT therapist. It's a rapid transformational therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And I absolutely loved it because it was it's hypnosis, it's NLP, it's inner child healing. And at that time I was already practicing more of energy healing, which taught me so much about how the body holds memory of the trauma, and not even just trauma from this life, but it could be holding trauma like your soul, your body could be holding trauma from past life too.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been learning this even more and more as I, working with clients, working with other women that are going through the same issues or different things, but they're experiencing they're experiencing that pain also in their physical body too.
How long have you seen needing work to heal the body from that trauma? Like, I'm sure it ranges, right? But what was the
Mhm.
quickest, like, oh, I think we got it healed now? What was the quickest, like, time
Um,
with a client?
yeah, so usually I work with the client for 4 weeks. We work for 4 weeks. It works so fast because one session, it's a lot of work. One
Uh-huh.
session takes maybe about an hour and a half to 2 hours, depending.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a lot of emotional work, and it's a lot of spiritual work too. But there's a
Mm,
lot of work that we can do in 2 hours.
really?
There's like layers and layers that we can take.
Is
You
it
need,
physical? Like, are you meeting with them in person or
no, actually,
virtual?
no, we just do Zoom, just like me and you right now. We do
Wow.
meetings,
Mm,
and I have worked with clients all over the world. And yeah, like I said, I usually just give them 4 sessions and they're done, you know.
wow, that's
I mean, and
amazing.
they just come back. Oftentimes they come back just for like, a tune-up, which we all need that, right?
Yes,
Even I have my own healers too.
right. Yes,
So
absolutely.
So, but yes, like whenever I work with this specific client that had a lot of sexual trauma. And you will think, well, sexual trauma might take, years, months, months or years to get it done. It took us 4 weeks, 4 weeks to get it done. And after the fourth
Wow.
week, he was like, he was crying. He because I work with both of them. It was a couple, but I work with them separately. And then the last session, which was the fifth session, I met with them together. And then they share separately, they share some of the experiences that they had after those 4 weeks. And he was saying that he was crying, but it wasn't tears of, sadness. It was tears of joy, because he had not felt so much joy. He was so blocked that he had not felt what joy felt before, before.
Yeah,
So,
that's
he had,
huge.
like I said, he has sexual trauma since he was little. And so that's what I mean. Like one session, we can take years of trauma. And so for him, it took him 4 weeks to deal with years and years of trauma that he had since he was like 4 years old.
Yeah, that's powerful.
Yeah,
It's
so
powerful.
it's been amazing. But again, it had a lot to do with not just doing the mental work, but there was also that energetic work too. That energy work too, because one thing that I noticed specifically with sexual abuse clients, that survivors, it's that they hold a lot of that energy in their throat chakra and their solar plexus and their root
Okay.
chakra.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
they have so much blockage in there. And
Yeah.
once we so just to give a little bit
Sure.
just to show you exactly how it works. So when I'm doing the session, I put the client into hypnosis. And the reason why I do that is because we can go so deep into the subconscious. Oftentimes, especially people that have dealt with something so traumatic like sexual trauma as a child, they block those memories. They block those memories, they dissociate from those memories, but the body is still holding that memory. Right? The body still holds that memory. So now it's showing in a way of they having like issues like, gastrointestinal issues. They're having issues with, like pain, chest, or their throat. Something is happening in their bodies that is telling them this needs to come out.
Right.
Right. And so when we do that, so I put them in hypnosis so that we can do regression. The regression help us to go back to that moment when it happened. And oftentimes, they go back to that moment when it happens. And most people are afraid to go back.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to see what happened. So what I always tell my clients is that you looking at it as an observer.
Right.
You're being the observer right now. This is not happening to you right now. This is just you being the observer of this memory. Because you literally go back into that moment when we're doing a regression. But it really helps us to go back to that moment, take that memory out. And then once we get that memory out, we can release the pain of it. Because even though we block that memory, that pain still there.
Yeah.
That pain's still there. And so it is so important to go back. And that's what I mean by, I often say like healing is painful.
Yeah.
When we're doing a really true healing, it's going to be painful, but it's needed, because it's like you going, digging deeper and deeper and taking all that mud out of your vessel.
Mhm.
You know,
How do you encourage your clients to be inspired even though it's going to be painful? You know?
most people, and speaking from personal experience, when you are holding so much pain and there's so much frustration and there is so much conflict in your mind too, and not just conflict in the mind, but there's also the pain in the body too, you are so desperate and so ready to do whatever it takes to get that out, to get that out. And so at that point they're ready to do it. They're
Yeah.
really, so these are people that are ready and committed to do the healing.
Right. Right.
you know and so,
It hurts that much where it's like they're willing
yeah, they're just willing to do
to overcome it.
anything and overcome it. Yes, absolutely.
So with becoming a hypnotherapist, it sounds like you're also a regression life.
Mhm.
What is that called again?
So it's called regression therapy.
Regression therapy.
Mhm.
Yeah. What is
Regression
that?
therapy.
So is that similar? Do you need to be a regression therapist to be a hypnotherapist? Like, does that have
So
to be together?
rapid transformational therapy, it's a full technique that it implies hypnosis, regression, and the transformation, which we use NLP in it. So it's a full modality that had, this was created and founded by Marisa Peer. Marisa Peer is like the #1 UK therapist, and she created this, this method of RTT, rapid transformational therapy, and that's what she called it, rapid transformational therapy, because it's so rapid. I mean, because we use hypnosis, because we use regression, we use NLP, we use cognitive behavioral therapy, all of it in one session. That's why it works so quick that years and years of trauma, we can get it done in 4 sessions, compared to, personally, I have done just talking therapy, working with cognitive behavioral therapy, working with a psychologist, and it took me years. I went to therapy for years before I was able to really like go back to the issue. And now that I do this, it's like, oh my god, if I have done this, it would have just took me maybe 4 sessions or 5 sessions, or something like that. But it's and so now I have friends that are also hypnotherapists too, and so we exchange sessions. Oftentimes we work with each other. It helps us to keep our practice going, but also help us to, as a therapist, as a healer, we also need our healing too.
Yeah, that was what my next question for you was. What aside from the traditional therapy that you have gotten, what other forms of healing have you done as well?
Reiki.
Mm.
That's one thing that really got me in looking more into energy healing, because I started suffering from kidney issues. It was the most painful thing I have ever gone through, besides giving birth. But it was so painful, and I understand why. I was going through a hard time during that time, and I understood later on by this Reiki master that it was because I was holding a lot of that, like almost like that anger, that so I was holding it right there in my kidneys. And so when she did that session on me, which just took one session, really. I mean, I went to a specialist, I went to, a different doctor, I was taking medication for it and all this stuff. And nothing really was working. I mean, that day I was in so much pain. I remember just going through excruciating pain. And I remember she had been giving me a massage before. And I said, you know what, I'm gonna contact her. I'm gonna just call her and see if she's available and come tomorrow. And so I contacted her. She came the next day to see me, and she did that healing session on me. I felt how literally that energy, as she was like, going through my body and moving things, especially in that area, my kidneys, I felt how that energy left my body. And after that, I understood how, our bodies hold memory of that pain, and it holds it right there, and it stays in the form of dense energy.
Yeah.
Which it can oftentimes show up as a physical symptom, like
Right.
kidney failure, intestinal issues, chest pain, back pain, lower back pain, even knee pain, all kinds of issues, right, that we can experience because of that dense energy that stays in our bodies. So when I learned that, I actually started incorporating energy healing in my sessions too. So once I do the regression, oftentimes I apply like either depending. So in the case of somebody that had sexual trauma when they were a child, I do inner child healing in that moment. And with the inner child healing, I also use energy healing. So let's say somebody, I ask them, right? So what are you experiencing right now in this moment because of that memory? Well, I'm experiencing, I feel this repulsive feeling. I feel like I can't speak out. I feel like I have this block in my, my throat right now. And I was okay, so, like I need you to take a deep breath now and just focus. Where in your body do you feel all this, right? All this pain, all this anger, all this frustration. And they often say, well, I feel it in my tummy, right? So my solar plexus, or I feel it right here in my throat. So then what I do is that I ask them, okay, let's take a deep breath and let's send, that healing energy to that part of your body. And they can feel how that part of their body. So basically what I'm doing with them is that I'm doing Reiki, but over the phone, which it's done. I mean, we can do it. And so what I do is that I extract that energy from that part of their body and then send back, transmute that energy and send back healing energy to not only unblock that part of their body, but to also heal it. It's almost like you have this part, like, this chakra right there. And so it's like, okay, let's take away that is dense, the density, that energy that is, toxic. And now let's transmute it and put it back into a healing energy, pure healing energy, so that that part of your body can also be healed, repaired, detoxified. Oftentimes, right after we do a session, I ask my clients to drink a lot of water. I mean, there's been times where they actually stop and they say, like, can I please use the restroom right now? Because they need to release. It's like when the mind lets go, the body also let go. So they need to release that. They need to release that too.
Have you experienced a moment where someone has resisted it?
I have. So this client, because he was, I don't know if it was because he was a man, and men, are normally not used to being, vulnerable with their emotions.
Right.
He was feeling a little bit nervous. He was feeling a little bit nervous. So he wasn't really able to go into that deep hypnosis, that deep, state. But all we do is that I often do a little bit more breath work with them, just to relax the body, relax the nervous system, and then they can easily go into deep hypnosis. and do the work, and that was only the first session because he wasn't familiar with it, and that's like anything. When our mind is not familiar with something, our mind is always going to take us back to what is familiar. And oftentimes, what is familiar is not necessarily good, but it's just things that we're not used to. He's never done hypnosis before, so he was nervous, and that's very, very common, very normal to experience. But like I said, we just did a little bit more breath work, and then he was totally fine.
Yeah. I always wonder that because, I also do some work like that. Because I am a business coach as well. However, what I notice is that sometimes there is some sort of resistance, kind of almost like a timidness. Like, do I really do this? Am I really doing this right? Like there's almost like they're one foot in, one foot out.
Right.
Energy.
It's the fear, it's the fear of the unknown, the fear of the fear of hypnosis. Like, am I going to be, is this just some like woo woo and they're trying to control my mind? It doesn't work like that, of course. What they do it is like they realize like, okay, you're in control of your mind. There's no way I'm going to be able to do or make you do something. That's more of like the stage hypnosis that they use, but that's not something that this is not how it works. You're always in control of your mind. You're always going to be, you're aware, but you're not aware in a way. But you're not really sleeping because your subconscious mind is completely awake in that moment.
So in terms of like energy, I'm always curious about light work, because isn't Reiki like light work? And then the opposite of that is like dark stuff, right? And I had spoken to I have a psychic who I always frequent, and she tells me, you have to make sure you're protecting yourself, right? And a part of that is because if you're doing light work, the dark energy is going to want to try to dim your light so you don't expand out and heal the world, essentially, is what she's saying. What do you do to protect yourself from that?
So oftentimes before I do a session, I cleanse my space. I either use Palo Santo or either use I sage the space too. So I do it before and after. I always do it before and after. And even I set an intention, I always set an intention before I start my session, a positive intention, and calling, protection, calling that higher power so that we can have protection, so that this environment and during the sessions that we are safe. And more importantly, that the client is safe, because that's super important for me. And it's important for me that the client it's safe, because that's the most important thing, that that they are safe, and of course that I'm safe too. But the most important thing for me is that they are safe and that they feel safe enough, because they're being at a very, very vulnerable place, where they're opening up so much, to be able to dig so deep. And getting all that mud out. But yes, of course, it's putting them in a very safe space. And even when I do the hypnosis, when I'm guiding them into hypnosis, I actually guide them into a safe heaven. I guide them to go into this I count them down from 10 down to 1. Once they get down to 1, to that 10th step, I guide them to go into a space where they open the door, they go into that door, they close the door, and they are in a safe heaven. It's a space that it has been designed by their mind for them and only for them, so that they can be in a safe space. And in that moment, it's like I call, like their ancestors, not just all the ancestors, like you have to be very specific. It's like calling the most, higher conscious ancestors, or
Mm,
protectors.
that's
uh,
interesting. Because there's
because
a lot of ancestors. Is that what you're saying?
there's a lot of ancestors. There are different kinds of ancestors, right? But we got to be specific to call those that are like higher conscious ancestors, those higher, the higher conscious power, the higher conscious, protectors, they're, angels, whatever you want to call it, but it has to be the higher conscious. Because
Otherwise, what?
so because again, then it could be that you're calling also other entities,
Oh
dark,
boy.
low vibrational entities. So we want to call the high vibrational entities, the high vibrational protectors,
Okay, good.
so that they can be in that space with him, with her in that moment, guiding them, and just supporting the process,
Yeah.
and protecting that space. So that's what I take them into, that space that I call it the safe heaven.
Mm-hmm.
Once that they're in that space, then I'm able to take them a little bit deeper too, because now they're safe. Now they're feeling safe. And again, that's the most important part, to make sure that they are safe. And like I said, I do my energy cleansing before, and then I do energy cleansing afterwards too.
Mm-hmm. Do you meditate?
I do, absolutely.
How
It's
often?
every day, every
Every
day,
day?
every day.
What does that consist of for you, meditation?
So I wake up and I meditate. That's it. Is I wake up and I meditate. And
Uh,
usually meditation, it's even better right in that moment when you're like waking up,
yeah.
because your brain waves are still kind of like, in that state of like not fully asleep but not fully awake.
Mm-hmm.
You can go a little bit more deeper. It's kind of like, in a way, going a little deeper into some like a hypnotic meditation.
Mm. Do you do it in your bed then?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I just wake up, turn my little meditation music, and I just stay in there and like meditate for like 30 minutes.
Wow.
Hmm.
Good,
Yeah.
good. And do you see the thing what I teach with meditations, it's a guided meditation. Are you
Mhm.
quiet or are you doing a guided meditation when you do your meditation?
You know what? I love guided meditations. I really like guided meditations. So
Oh,
I often
okay.
do guided meditations. Yes.
Yeah, because I couldn't do quiet, just
Yeah.
full
I
blown
can't do
quiet.
Yeah, I can't do all quiet, but I love guided meditations.
Yeah, I
Some
always
people
wonder
don't
that.
like guided meditations, but I personally do.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Do you have your own that you've created that you listen to? Like, what do you listen to for guided
I listen
meditation?
to different teachers, really
Mm.
different teachers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really, I don't really have a specific one. It's just
Yeah.
kind of whatever it feels in that moment. It's like, oh, this one sounds good right now.
Yeah, yeah. You go with the vibe.
Exactly.
So when clients work with you and you said it's 4 sessions, during the 4 weeks that you're kind of working with them, do they have homework
They
like
do. Yes.
outside of you? Okay.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
meditations like that?
Yes. Meditation. They do mirror work.
Mm.
They have to journal every day too.
Mhm.
So they keep a journal where they do praising work, and they do
Praising themselves?
praising themselves.
Okay.
Yes. And that
Very
goes
cool.
along with the mirror work. So they have to look at themselves in front of the mirror, stand in front of the mirror, and start praising themselves. And then after that, they also do, they have to do a gratitude journal too.
Mm.
So, and that's every day, every
Mhm.
day. And
Mhm.
so for those 4 weeks, they're creating a new habit too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And with like the meditations and because that's really like a lifestyle.
It is, yeah. It just becomes a habit. It just becomes like part of, like, almost like breathing. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
I wake up, I'm like, oh, need to do my meditation. It's
Right.
like brushing your teeth. It's just part of that cleanse too.
Mm-hmm. What happens if, you've done this and what has it returned, like the pain in the body? Is there a time where, has there ever been a time where it's returned and it kind of feel, the client feels again, or you felt it again?
Mm. Um, Personally, for me, once I done the work, it has
Mm-hmm.
never returned back. Like
Mm.
those kidneys, they always say like once you have kidney issues that you're going to have it like over and over. I haven't had a kidney issue. I haven't had a UTI or any type of urinary tract infection, because of
Wow.
kidneys ever, ever.
Wow.
Like nothing. Nothing.
Nothing. Wow.
Yeah.
That is powerful.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I do believe that once you do the work with that, it's like you can, and then it really, because what I teach them for, it's not, and then, as a healer, it's not you healing them. It's just you guiding them so they can heal themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of the day, what we really want to teach our clients as a therapist is to have more self-awareness.
Mm.
Once they have that self-awareness, then they're able to pick up those, triggers, or they able
Yeah.
to pick up like, like, wait, hold on, like, I'm holding on to much of this anger. Like I need to
Right.
release it. So either they learn how to release that on their own, like they learn how to do like, meditation. They learn how to maybe they can release that with just doing simple things like going for a walk,
Yeah.
you know going for a walk, meditating on, in nature, being in
Mhm.
nature, like go hug a tree, go do something like that. I've done it before where it's like I'm
Yeah.
like, oh god, I just feel like I need to be in nature and go and hug a tree, literally. Like I've done that before where I had felt like and it, this was something, and this has to do with generational trauma.
Mm.
My dad was going through a really hard time and I didn't know. I
Mm.
found out that same day after because of my sister. And I was like, oh, now I get it. It's because
Mm.
I was releasing my dad's trauma in that moment.
Mm.
I was feeling like I was going like emotionally a little crazy.
Oh, really?
I was feeling like just so emotional, like I just wanted to cry.
Uh-huh.
And I walk, I live really close to the lake. And so I walked down to the lake and I sat down next to a tree and I was literally hugging the tree, crying with the tree. I felt like the tree was hugging me, but I was crying with so much emotion, like a little, like, right? So,
Yeah.
and I didn't know why. I had no
Yeah.
idea why, but I just felt like I needed to release that.
Mm-hmm.
Once I stopped crying so much, it was like, whew, okay, now I feel better. I
Mm-hmm.
kept going for a walk, then came back home. And then my sister was texting me. And then I was like, hey, is everything okay? She's like, well, dad has been going through this and this, but he actually feels better now.
Weird.
And I was like, oh, that's what was happening. Because
Oh.
I'm so connected with my dad.
Yeah.
And what I learned from other healers is that when my dad was when my grandma passed away, I was 5 years old at that time. And my dad didn't really grieve
Mm.
properly. So as a empath, I took on my dad's pain.
Mm.
And so it's something that he never really grieved and he never really released that. So I feel like when that happened with the tree and the crying and being so emotional and releasing so much and crying so much, it was me releasing that pain from my dad's grief that he had.
Mm.
So, it's like it is our work to do that, that generational trauma where it says like, well, the pain stops with me so that I don't pass this on to my children, so that
Right.
I don't pass this on to, the next 7 generations. And then you cleanse and clear that trauma from those past 7 generations behind you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds almost like there's a cord also attached to you and your dad.
Absolutely.
Some sort of cord where if he feels something, you're susceptible to it too.
Yes.
So interesting. Again, I'm like referencing my psychic because she had told me to do the same, like go out into nature and go to a tree, literally like what she said, go to a tree, but get an offering. So I'm supposed to bring like crackers or something, make an offering to the tree. And then you're supposed to call in, or she told me to call in Goddess Bridget. And Goddess Bridget is like the goddess of healing and nature, like nature and healing, like that. And we're supposed to talk to Goddess Bridget through the tree. And that's where the healing, we evoke that healing through Goddess Bridget and being in nature. But that is probably what was happening, where you came to the tree and you evoke that healing energy. And
yeah, because honestly, like
happened.
after I did that, I was like, okay, now I can go on. I was like, okay. So and
like you knew it.
Walk.
You knew that that's where you needed to be. You needed to be in nature.
Yes, I just knew I needed to be like literally hugging a tree. I just felt
like literally.
I felt I was like hugging the tree and crying with the tree. And in that moment, honestly, I felt like the tree was hugging me too. Like it was like embracing me.
Yeah. Goddess Bridget was calling you in. Interesting. That is really powerful.
Yes.
So
those are
good.
things I teach my clients, and that they learn, that's part of self-awareness. It's just listening to your intuition. What does your body need? What does your body need? What does your inner child needs right now? Because oftentimes we have those triggers, and it doesn't trigger the the adult self. It's triggering the inner child. So it's like, what does your inner child need right now?
Right.
Like, you know what? My inner child needs to go for a walk. My inner child needs to jump. My inner child needs to dance right now.
Yeah.
Dancing is also another form to release so much. That's why I love zebras too. Zebras. That's why I love, the
the print. Yeah. So what is the dancing?
So zebras, what they do in the wild, when they are being, hunted by, a lion, or, and they're being the prey, but they are able to escape that. And their whole nervous system in that moment is like in the fight or flight mode, which we often go into that when we are, fearful of something, right? But they're able to escape. So before they go back into the group, I don't know what is it called, like a herd, right? They go back into the group. They go into nature on their own, and they start doing this like jumping, and they're just go and like jump and release, because that's a way for them to release that energy. That energy of fear, that energy of like, that, so that their nervous system goes back into and regulates and goes back into balance. And then after they do that, then they go back into their group.
Wow.
So if animals can do that,
we can do that.
We can do that too.
Absolutely.
We're a little bit of a higher intelligence. So that's what I teach them. It's like, okay, what does your body need? So they need to go with that intuition, learn that self-awareness, and learn to listen to their intuition of what does your body need right now? What does your inner child need right now to be at balance and to feel safe? Because oftentimes the reason why we go into triggers because we don't feel safe, because that inner child doesn't feel safe.
Right. Yeah. It's like a trauma response.
Yes.
The work you do is so amazing. It's so needed, especially now. It's so needed. I feel like it's needed at every moment in time, no matter what.
It has been needed, and it's been on for so many generations. And, I can go so deep into this, but this is why they were, burning women during the Inquisition time. Because as women, let's face it, we have like that power of creation.
Yeah.
And a lot of us have been healers. you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were not witches, we were healers.
Mm-hmm.
We were
Mm-hmm.
healers, and we were smart thinking women.
Exactly.
And they
Not,
didn't they didn't want to keep us, they wanted to keep us separate. I mean, and this is why we were so separate. Even when we went through that movement of feminism, it has been taken such a negative, when you think about like feminism, a lot of people think it in a very negative way now. But it's not negative at all. It was
mm-hmm.
created so that we women could become together, we
Unity.
could we could unify it. And
Mm-hmm.
it had nothing to do with being against men. Nothing to do, because there was also men who were,
Right.
really being supported of this movement. It was so
Mm-hmm.
important. I mean, this movement meant so much for like kids, children, little girls that, they couldn't even vote, they couldn't go to school. I mean, imagine not being able to go to school. It's crazy. It's
Yeah,
insane.
it
It's insane
is.
that
I mean, I have two girls too, so
yes, exactly. So it's insane that, they were putting so much pressure and so much oppression on women. And so, this has been going on for a long time. But, this is why there's women up there that are, brave and willing to do the work and willing to stand up and, create that unity, because that's really what we need, more unity as women.
absolutely.
This whole
Empowered women.
women is so important, because at the end of the day, we are sisters.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
And we get more accomplished together than
Mm,
apart.
absolutely. We are so
So,
creative.
yeah.
And then if we, imagine we're creative just one, but if we get a full group of women, we're so creative. I mean,
Yeah.
how many words have been, done because, I mean, let's face it, men, they love guns and they love, you know, but if there were more women involved in politics, more women involved in, and just the healthcare system, the educational
Yes.
system, all the systems that were really created to limit so much, healthcare system was created to limit health.
Absolutely.
Religion system was created to limit spirituality.
Money
And
was created to limit money.
mhm, exactly,
Women can actually heal the world. We
absolutely.
could totally heal the world.
I believe
Absolutely.
that. I believe that.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that I think I'm better than a man. It
Right.
has nothing to do with that. It's just that as women, we have a different, we have a different side. We have the
Mm-hmm.
nurturing side. We have more of the
Mm-hmm.
passionate side. So we're not going to go into war and just kill a full, nuke a full country just because we had a little, temper tantrum.
Right.
We're not going to do that. We're actually going to apply compassion and
Mm-hmm.
nurturing, and and we're really going to be able to create different ways to create better solutions,
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
we are healers.
Exactly. I do agree with
So
that.
we want
Women are
to heal.
healers.
We want to heal. We don't want to destroy. We actually want to heal.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. What an amazing conversation. And the work you do is profound. And, it's something that everybody needs. And I just absolutely love what you stand for and what you do for the community. Thank you. Elia, where can we find you? And what are the things that we can look towards in the future? What are the projects coming up and all of that?
Sure. So you can find me on social media. Instagram is the easiest possible way to find me. And it's just my full name, Elia Bean. I also have my website too, which is also my name too. It's www.eliabean.com. And yeah, you can just DM me, send me a message. I respond, I reply. And new projects coming out for me is I really want to create more ways to help those that are not financially, stable,
Mhm.
because I've been there before,
Mhm.
where I needed the healing, but I couldn't afford how much it costs. So my next project is to be able to found, this type of program where I'm able to help other women that don't have the means of, for, financially, that they can really afford therapy, that they can really afford, all this kind of healing, but they need it.
Right.
So that's what I'm working on right now, to be able to found this program so that I can help more women, and that I really need this healing, but they're not able to afford it.
Okay, wonderful. Well, we'd like to know more about that, and I'm sure the community would appreciate, just having something like that. So that's amazing again. So thank you so much. Awesome. Well, thank you, and thank you for your time. And everybody else, please follow Elia Bean, eliabean.com, and Elia Bean on Instagram. And again, thank you so much for your time, Elia.
Thank you so much for having me, Maria. This was beautiful.